April 8th is the big day. The total solar eclipse will be visible across New England, and in Boston, 90% of the sun will be blocked out. Now here at Boston 25, we spent the past couple of weeks putting together some information on the eclipse, letting you know what to do when you see it, how to see it safely, some activities to enjoy this, and much, much more. Some things you probably don't even know yet. So here's a look at everything total solar eclipse related for you guys here in New England and in Boston this year.
Heavy rain, ice, and snow. New Hampshire has seen some wild weather lately, and we are getting ready for another big impact storm to bring significant snow over the next few days.
Across New Hampshire and northern New England, the ground is saturated and trees are stressed. With heavy, wet snow and stronger wind, power outages remain a concern ahead of our next storm. This is just days before a rare opportunity to view the total solar eclipse across parts of northern New England, an event people have been planning for months and even years. I talked to William Hinkle from Eversource. He says the timing of the storm ahead of the eclipse has caused an added challenge, but one they are prepared for.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and the state's expecting a lot of people here to be able to take in that natural phenomenon. It has made booking hotel rooms for those out-of-state crews that we're bringing in to support restoration a little more difficult than it would be normally at this time of year. However, we do have the rooms we need for the crews that we've already brought into the state. Now, if we had to bring in even more crews during the week, that could potentially be a little more difficult.
Hinkle told me crews have already been working around the clock, and they will be prepared to restore power to customers as soon as possible this week. Right now, the forecast is looking good for the eclipse, and Eversource will be prepared for all the extra people planning to travel to the state for this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to view the eclipse. Meteorologist Vicki Graff for your local station, Boston 25 News. We are close to a month out from the total solar eclipse, which is a unique situation for us here. Granted, total solar eclipses happen every 18 months, but with this certain one coming up, a good portion of the United States will be in this path of totality, which is rare. The next time we're going to see this is not until 2045. So what is a total solar eclipse? It happens on April 8th, 2024, and it's when the sun, moon, and earth are in complete alignment. So the moon actually will block out the sun, and you get darkness for a period of time. Now, the path of totality for us here, again, it's across a good portion of the United States, spanning from Texas all the way through Ohio and parts of the Northeast. So for places like, say, Burlington, Stowe, Vermont, you're in that path of totality. Here in southern New England, we are not in that path of totality, but we'll still be able to see something here. So in Burlington, Vermont, this will happen over the course of a couple of hours with the maximum eclipse when the moon completely blocks out the sun and it creates darkness for a few minutes here. That's going to happen at 3:27 in the afternoon, and then it eventually ends closer to around 4:37. For us here in Boston, because we're not in that path of totality, we'll still see a little bit of the sunshine there, but that's going to happen between 2:16 in the afternoon and 4:39, and we still will have 92% coverage here in Boston. So we'll be able to see something, it just won't get completely dark. Now, in order to view this, you need special glasses. Regular sunglasses do not work because it will damage your eyes if you look directly at the sun. So make sure to get those, and also keep an eye on the forecast. We're hoping for a cloud-free day for us that day. Meteorologist Vicki Graff for your local station, Boston 25 News.
Many across the United States, including New England, are about to be treated to a once-in-a-lifetime event for many, and this is going to be a spectacular thing to see, the total solar eclipse. Now, if you're in New England, you'll have to travel a bit farther north. Our path of totality, that will track through northern Vermont, northern New Hampshire, and much of Maine, and it will be worth a trip. In fact, if we look back at some of our eclipse history, the last total solar eclipse here in Boston was 65 years ago in 1959. This is an event that does not happen very often. In all of New England, in fact, you have to go back 54 years to March 7th, 1970 to see our last total solar eclipse in the region. Of course, we have our eclipse coming up here on April 8th. And then after this, if you don't get to see it, the next time you can see it in Boston or anywhere in New England, it will be 55 years from now, May 1st, 2079. An absolutely spectacular event, and I listened to NASA talk about just how many things you're going to see during this eclipse, which will last nearly 4 minutes. Certainly a long one, and one, I'll say again, you do not want to miss. I'm meteorologist Tucker Antico for your local station, Boston 25 News.
Viewing a solar eclipse is a lot like buying a house, in that location is everything.
Yeah, we're planning to go to Rochester to see the solar eclipse.
And plan to go to Rochester because the view is better there.
Yeah, because it's actually going to be the total solar eclipse.
The path of totality is narrow and fixed, but Massachusetts still stands to get quite a show.
What we'll see here in Massachusetts is very close to a total eclipse. We'll have about 93% coverage.
It just happens every so often, so you got to take your chance to see it when you get it.
What we'll also see in Massachusetts Monday, clear skies, and that forecast has vaulted the state into a prime eclipse viewing spot, even in Boston, where 90% of the sun will be obscured. Thus, many weekend flights into Logan are sold out, and that suggests a rise in the city's hotel occupancy. The tourist boomlet may be even better in central Massachusetts.
So we're really excited about Monday. We've got a solar eclipse celebration event. We're open from noon to 5 p.m., free to the public.
And the public has responded to that invitation from Worcester's Ecotarium in a big way.
Right now, we've already got about 1,100 folks pre-registered.
Those eclipse enthusiasts will gather on the sundial, which by Monday will be free of snow. So what will they see? Something like what Rebecca Steffler saw during a total eclipse in Idaho 7 years ago.
It went completely pitch black, and you could see the stars in the middle of the day.
At the time, Steffler's twin boys were just 2. Are you excited about the eclipse?
Yes.
Yes.
How come?
Because we never seen it.
And you can't safely see the eclipse unless you've got a pair of these. These are solar eclipse glasses, certified for $2.50. This is a small price to pay to save your eyesight. And the weather is forcing some eclipse enthusiasts to make changes of plans, sometimes drastic ones. Coming up at 6, we'll meet someone who was going to go to Texas. Instead, he's coming to New England. In Worcester, Jim O'Reilly for your local station, Boston 25 News.
All right, all eyes are on next Monday. That's when that much anticipated solar eclipse will happen. And even though Massachusetts isn't in the path of totality, the sun will still be more than 90% obscured. So what will that mean for you if you're on the road at that time? Well, joining me now with some eclipse driving tips is Mark Schildrop from AAA. So pretty exciting stuff. We were just talking about how excited a lot of people are about this thing.
Yeah, this has really captured people's imaginations. People are really excited about it. For many folks, this is a once-in-a-lifetime event. So we expect pretty wild situation out there on the roadways, especially right when the eclipse is about to happen.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, we're not routinely driving during a solar eclipse, so what's important for people to be thinking about if they're going to be behind the wheel during that time?
Hopefully people have their destination already figured out and they're going to leave way ahead of time. But if you are on the road when it happens, the first thing to remember is if you just pull over on the side of the road catching a glimpse, that may be a dangerous situation. So there may be some of that. So be aware of the fact that when the eclipse is happening, there may be people slowing down or pulling to the side of the roadway, so we want to be extra alert. Don't wear your eclipse glasses while you're driving.
That's a big one.
That should go without saying, but you never know. Somebody might think, why not try popping those on for a brief second. And the other thing is, if you're in, say, the city, everyone's going to be looking at the sky. So just be on the lookout for pedestrians and other distractions. And then also, you don't want to try to film or photograph the eclipse while you're behind the wheel. It's against the law for one thing, but that is a major distraction as well. So ideally, get to a safe place to park, get situated, and then enjoy the eclipse safely.
You know, so much has gone into people booking these hotel rooms and Airbnbs in places like Vermont or Maine, places that will be in the path of totality, and that's all well and good, but now these places are all booked up. So do you anticipate that many people from, say, our area might be taking day trips up to these places? And what do people need to keep in mind if they're going to be road tripping that day?
Yeah, I think a lot of folks might decide to just jump in the car and go, and they may be in for a little bit of a traffic nightmare because many of the states up north are really warning folks that the roads are going to be busy. Many of these small communities are not equipped to handle the rush of travelers. There's an expectation of maybe 500,000 to 1 million people descending on places like Burlington, Vermont, Stowe, Vermont. So those roads leading to those areas, those main highways even, could be pretty backed up. So I think, folks, if you're going to head up there, you need to make sure that you're not trying to jump in the car the morning of. Airfare is really, out of the question. You can't even get train tickets. I was just looking last night to see, could you take an Amtrak from Boston to Burlington? Yeah, you could in that day, but it's a 20-hour trip, and you're going to be taking multiple trains. completely booked out. So if you are planning on driving up, you really want to try to leave sometime over the weekend, and good luck finding accommodations. It's going to be a real challenge.
So best maybe to just stay where you are. If you will just be driving, maybe coming home from work, driving the kids to extracurricular activities, do you got to put your headlights on? Do you put your visors down? How do you go about this when you're behind the wheel?
Yeah, definitely keep your visor down and keep your headlights on. It could get pretty dark when that eclipse is happening. Even here in Massachusetts, even though we're not in the path of totality, we're at about 97%. So there is going to be quite an impact. It's going to be pretty compelling, even if you're here in the Bay States. So you want to try to think like, hey, I'm going to have to almost drive at night for a few minutes. So try to avoid being on the road. But yeah, definitely you want to keep that visor down, keep your visibility up. You want to see and be seen. And those headlights on will certainly help in both respects.
All right, exciting stuff. I mean, we've been waiting a few years for this. We'll have to wait several more for this to occur again. So I know a lot of people will be taking this in. Mark Schildrop from AAA, thanks so much again for joining us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
The eclipse may not reach totality here in Boston, but that won't stop you from seeing some really cool things as it's going on. In the beginning stages of our partial eclipse here, you'll notice that a lot of the shadows become crescent-shaped. Anywhere you have a narrow point of light shining through, like between tree leaves, you'll notice those shadows aren't normal. They'll look just like the eclipse with the moon blocking out the sun, as if someone took a bite out of it. You'll also see the sunlight beginning to feel less intense, and temperatures may even drop slightly as the moon blocks out some of the normal solar radiation. As we get closer to totality here, we're going to see surroundings begin to dim and colors begin to dull too. It'll just look kind of funny outside. The light will be unusual. And as we get as close as we'll get here in Boston to totality, greater than 90%, we are going to actually notice some changes in nature, which could include birds becoming quieter, and you may even hear crickets outside. All of these are going to be interesting things you can spectate without being in totality right here from Boston, and it's certainly a spectacle you won't want to miss. For your local station, I'm meteorologist Tucker Antico, Boston 25 News.
Architectural Digest says that Burlington, Vermont and Holton, Maine are on their list of 13 cities in the U.S. to get the best view of the total eclipse. Burlington is expected to be in darkness for 3 minutes and 19 seconds starting at 3:26 p.m. Holton, Maine is the last town in the U.S. in the path of totality. A quick search shows hotel rooms fully booked in Burlington for April 7th and 8th. In Holton, Maine, we found this listing for a cabin that sleeps 4 people, currently going for $1,500 a night during the eclipse, and you get that cool moose shower curtain. The town says they're expecting around 40,000 visitors for the eclipse. The population of Holton, fewer than 6,000. The April 8th eclipse will be visible from Mexico across several U.S. states and into Canada. The total eclipse is expected to last about 3 minutes. I'm Ray Vieta for your local station, Boston 25 News.
We know that total solar eclipses are rare here on Earth, but did you know they may actually be rare across the universe? That's right. If we lived in the world of Star Wars or Star Trek, perhaps we'd have alien tourists coming to watch this with us here on Earth. Now, the reason it's so rare is all because of perspective. Relative to the moon, the sun is 400 times farther away from Earth. Now, the sun also happens to be 400 times larger than the moon in diameter. The result is the sun and the moon taking up about the same amount of space in our sky, about a ½ degree across the sky each. So when you have a total solar eclipse, the moon perfectly blocks out the sun, but you can still see the sun's atmosphere, the corona, peeking out from around behind it. That's what allows for these eclipses to be so spectacular, and from a purely scientific standpoint, it is just coincidence. But what's even more interesting is that the moon each year is slipping farther and farther away from Earth. So we literally live in the golden age of eclipses, and hundreds of millions of years from now, total solar eclipses will no longer be visible. They'll no longer happen here on Earth. So get out and enjoy it if you get the chance. I'm meteorologist Tucker Antico for your local station, Boston 25 News.
If you plan to view the total solar eclipse, you need to do it safely. Otherwise, you risk causing damage to your eyes.
Millions of people are hoping to get a glimpse of the rare total solar eclipse that will happen across parts of the U.S. April 8th. The sun, moon, and Earth are in complete alignment, blocking out the sunlight for several minutes for those in the path of totality. In Boston, we will catch 92% of the eclipse. It won't be completely dark here, but you will still have the chance to view this once-in-a-lifetime appearance. Experts say you need to do this safely. Otherwise, you could cause damage to your eyes.
damage that can happen in seconds. What it does is it ultimately can cause severe vision loss, severe changes in color. Once the vision is lost, it cannot be brought back.
Special certified glasses are necessary.
There's a specific one that's set for filters for direct observation of the sun. And they're meant to honestly filter out as much of that sun as possible. Regular sunglasses do not meet any of the requirements to have adequate protection for the eyes.
Dr. Rashid says there's an added concern when it comes to children safely viewing the eclipse.
Just make sure that they're protecting their eyes, that they understand that they have to have those glasses on at all times, not to look directly at it.
I have a pair of the certified eclipse glasses here. If you want to find other ways of indirectly viewing the solar eclipse, I put together some ideas for you. You can check them out at our website, boston25news.com. Meteorologist Vicki Graff for your local station, Boston 25 News.
And we have an entire section of our website designated to all things eclipse. Head to boston25news.com, click the 2024 Solar Eclipse tab to see all of our eclipse reports, including new technology that is allowing blind people to hear and feel.
When it comes to viewing the eclipse, I have a few tips that'll be helpful for you. The first one here, this should be common sense. Don't stare directly at the sun. That'll damage your eyes just as it will on a regular sunny day. If you want to look for the eclipse though, find those special eclipse glasses. You can find them online, and to make sure that they're the right kind, you want to find that ISO tag right there with the number following it. That's how you know they'll keep your eyes safe. Another thing you can do is create a pinhole viewer. And a pinhole viewer, you can find details on creating that online too, but basically you just poke a small hole in something like a piece of paper and you can actually see the eclipse, the crescent sun, through that pinhole viewer. Really interesting and fun to do. And lastly, NASA calls upon people like us, citizen scientists, to record what they're seeing, what they're hearing in nature, and they can actually use some of the data that you collect for some real-time science. So some interesting things to think about there. And again, make sure you're not staring directly at the sun. Just be smart about it and get those glasses when you can. For your local station, I'm meteorologist Tucker Antico, Boston 25 News.
The total solar eclipse is less than a month away, and that means thousands are expected to flood to parts of northern New England to see it for themselves and capture it on their cell phone. 150,000 people are expected to head to Vermont to see the once-in-a-lifetime eclipse. To boost service, emergency management is bringing in satellite trucks and cell towers on wheels. They're specifically for emergency calls. Now, regardless of your phone carrier, they'll push your call through to 911.
100% cell phone coverage before this event. It will not have it during the event. We're trying to make sure that we have as much coverage as possible, but it won't be 100%.
AT&T and Verizon say they are confident in their 5G towers holding up during the increased traffic. And even with the boost of the portable towers, carriers are asking people to use as little data as possible. The eclipse is expected to happen on April 8th. I'm Rachel Keller for your local station, Boston 25 News.
Do you still have those special solar eclipse viewing glasses? You may have another opportunity to use them. On April 8th, a total solar eclipse will be visible to millions of people in North America, 32 million in the U.S. alone.
I saw the last solar eclipse, and there is really something magical.
Expedia travel expert Melanie Fish says this eclipse will be visible in more areas than the Great American Eclipse in 2017.
This time, the solar eclipse covers a much more populated path of totality. So that means a lot more people are going to have a chance to see it.
A solar eclipse is when the moon passes between the sun and the earth, casting a shadow on the earth that fully or partially blocks the sun's light, creating darkness like this during the day. Mexico's Pacific coast will experience the total eclipse first. Then the path enters the U.S. and goes up to Newfoundland, Canada. People in 15 states will be able to view the phenomenon, and lodging is already in high demand.
Availability is getting tight for hotels to stay in and vacation rentals in the path of totality.
This year's rare sight falls around spring break, which is already a popular time to travel. So book accommodations, flights, and car rentals now. For those who have the week off, Fish suggests planning an entire trip around the solar eclipse. So pick a place where there are other things to see and do. Most importantly, plan ahead.
Don't just wing it and hit the road and say, I'm going to drive to wherever the eclipse is.
Well, as we all know by now, the solar eclipse is on Monday, and we're going to get a great view of it here in New England. It's something to absolutely be excited for. Of course, you can't look directly at the sun, and that's why I have Eric here. He's an educator at the Museum of Science, and he's going to tell us about how you can still experience the eclipse without having glasses.
Yeah, so those glasses are super important because looking at the sun, even where we get here in Boston, 7% of the sun is going to be peeking out behind the moon.
It's too much.
It's still enough to damage your eyes, even though you won't get the pain response from the full sun. So that's why we're constantly saying don't look at that sun even at the peak. But if you don't get the eclipse glasses, if they're all sold out everywhere, then you can just make an eclipse viewer that lets you look at the sun and watch that progress over the course of the afternoon. It takes about a minute and a half to do, and you can probably do it with stuff you have in the house.
And this would be a great activity. We were talking about the weather on Saturday being kind of crummy, so if you got kids at home, something like that, this, I mean, like you said, only a few minutes and household items, right?
Yeah, you can take a cereal box or really any box. And then just pretty much make it, and then you can spend the rest of the time decorating it. And then you have it for the next couple eclipses coming up. And we have a couple partial eclipses we can see from here over the next 10 years.
And tell me how it works. So I see we got our cereal boxes here. There's some tin foil. How would I even use this, the finished product?
So the finished product, basically, the light comes in one tiny pinhole. So you take a thumbtack over the foil once we've made it. You stick it through, the light comes through there, and then you look through the other side at whatever you want to see. So for the studio lights up in the ceiling, I can see there's 3 different lights. So when I look in here, I can see the 3 little dots.
And so you're, let me see this here. Oh yeah, wow, it literally looks like, okay, just, wow.
So whatever the light is coming from, if it's a circular sun, so if you don't test it Saturday, Sunday, you'll see the circle. On Monday, when that moon is blocking it, you'll see a chunk taken out of it, then you'll see that sliver sun, so it shows you the shape of whatever the light is.
Yeah, so it's projecting. So if we have the eclipse, you can see the crescent basically right here in the box. And actually, that was so cool. We have our lights up here. There are 3 lights within the, I don't know, light.
Yeah, the ceiling light.
You don't even really notice, and then you look in here, and then it's like, oh wow, you can actually see each individual light. So if you don't have glasses, or you're not sure if the glasses you got are real, I know there's a lot of scams out there, so be aware of that. But you always have this handy to go. And like you said, at any point during the eclipse, you can just look in the box, you can track it, right? And for any kid, any age, I mean, this seems like a pretty simple activity.
Yeah, all you have to do is kind of like cut the flaps off, leave 2 holes on either side, cover one side in tin foil, poke a hole through it, and that's it.
Perfect. So tin foil, just need a tack and your cardboard. Hopefully a good cereal box, right?
Yeah.
That's it. Good Saturday rainy activity, and hopefully you guys have something to do in case we have the rain. I want to thank you for being here. And again, great activity at home, something that you can do for the kids and also enjoy the eclipse on Monday.
And Boston 25 is your local station for coverage of the solar eclipse. Chief Meteorologist Kevin Lemanowitz will be live in Stowe, Vermont, right in the path of totality. And he'll be up there Monday for one of the best views in New England, really one of the best views anywhere. We'll be streaming live coverage all day from across the country on Boston 25 Now stream. Plus, when we are at totality here, we're going to bring that to you live on the air. So make plans now. Live team coverage all day Monday right here on your local station, Boston 25 News.